So the first one, and this is also like, I know. So this is about a group of friends from, maybe I shouldn't show that. So we have two detectives and, or no, we have one detective. But other than that, I am very pleased. I'm looking down, it's a pile, it's a pile. This detective turns to a therapist, Sophia Zetterlund, for her expertise in the psychopath. Hi everybody, it's Audrey and welcome back to Chapter and Converse. Today's video is going to be another book haul, but this is a thrifted used bookstore haul. Online used bookstores. So I don't have any used bookstores near me, which is crazy. So I have a handful of free little libraries where you guys know every once in a blue moon you score like the diamond in the rough book. And before the world went upside down, I used to be able to go to my library, which has a full book room, and they would do an annual book sale and you could donate your books there, and they would always sort of have like a roving cart of discounted books, but that has all been off limits this entire time. So as much as I love me a brand new book, don't get me wrong, I also recognize the expense of it. And I also want to support some of these used bookstores. And I had been doing some looking around online, and I actually, this will not surprise anybody, I was on Riley Sager's website, who linked me over to Atlas Creative, because Atlas Creative created bookmarks based on all of Riley Sager's books. So I will link their website down below also, and their Instagram. So it's like graphic design and a creative outlet, but it's also, they also do book reviews and a lot of thrillers and like really in my wheelhouse. And I saw them post a book, which I have here today, and it said, like in the description down below, it said it was from Thrift Book. So I was like, why am I not doing this? So I decided to go on like a little bit of an experimental online thrifting shopping trip. And today is the result of that. So I, of course, would prefer to be able to do used book shopping in person, because you can actually hold the book, see the condition of the book, flip through the pages. And these bookstores all rank their books kind of like new, very good, good. And then there's like something that basically says like, it's really pretty bad, but you're paying pennies for it. So the price is obviously impacted by the condition of the book. And there's sort of these vague descriptions where it could be, there's writing in the book, dust jackets are missing, you know, spines could be cracked. You could have a former library book, which is fine by me, but you don't quite totally know what you're gonna get. So I knew this was a little bit of a risk, but it was a good experiment. And I have to say, I am totally pleased with everything. There was one book that I really suspected was probably not gonna be in great condition. I paid like $2 for it, and it's not in great condition. So I'm probably just gonna pass that one on. But other than that, I have to say they either met or exceeded my expectations. And then I did buy one book that was in brand new condition because I needed to have it. And when you see it, you'll understand. But let's get into the books. So I'm gonna start with what I got from Thrift Book. So I got 5 books from here, and I'm gonna start with what I'll quote unquote call the worst one. And it's Agatha Christie's Endless Night. So this was supposed to be in good condition. It's like a pocket book, pocket paperback book. And this is one of her books that I don't hear a lot of people talk about so much, but I really wanted to read it. And I kind of had it on my wish list for a while. And when I saw it here, I was like, well, let me just give it a go. And it has this, of course, cover bought everything. I'm probably like out of focus. So I love the cover of this. And this, you can already see how yellow it is. So this came out in, this printing of this book, I should say, is from August 1977. So it's not surprising. Like this is definitely like really yellow, but it's like cracked in the middle. It's super yellowed, and it kind of like, it just sort of like smells like it's been in somebody's basement, which is really the thing that is gonna kind of put me off from it a little bit. But what I found so interesting, and this is in several of these books, a lot of them have like inscriptions or notes from people in it, which I feel voyeuristic and almost like a little bit fascinated by. So this was Christmas 1977. And it says, "Dear little one, here's to good mystery reading. I love you. Merry Christmas. Love you." And I think it says Annie is the name, or I don't know if it's supposed to be Granny. It's like hard to see what the name is at the bottom. Let me get out of it. But I'm really kind of fascinated by the little inscriptions in it. So I'm on the fence if I'm going to try and read this one, but again, it's really that like basement-y odor of it that's kind of putting me off a little. So next up, this is a book that I've wanted to reread for a while, and I had this, and I feel like I even had this edition of it because it looks like it came from an old book club, and it's Runaway Jury by John Grisham. So this is one of his earlier books, and I remember reading it back in the beginning of time. This one has somebody's like name and phone number and like address in the front of it. I don't know, but okay. I feel like I would have crossed that out if I was donating a book. So this was his 7th book that he wrote. This came out in 1996. And I've just sort of been in a little bit of a Grisham kick in the sense that I want to reread his books. So I picked this one up. I'm very interested in his earlier works, not very much his later ones. So I picked this one up. All of these books were under $5, and I'm not mad about that. And then the next Grisham I got, which I have been eyeing this on Amazon because I wanted to replace my original mass market paperback like I did with A Time to Kill, and I think it was like $25 on Amazon. You guys, this was $4. It's the Firm hardcover. It's perfect. The cover is in perfect condition. There is nothing wrong with this book in the slightest. Like, it doesn't even look like anybody read it. I can't even believe this is $4. It's perfect. And I'm so happy about it. I mean, like, there's like a little indentation on the top of the cover here, which honestly could have happened in the shipping. My only beef about all of these places is they ship just in like the regular plastic vellum envelopes, like not padding or anything. So there's a bit of a chance that things are gonna get dinged on the inside, but other than that, everything is fine. But this is a first edition of this book. So yes, please, and thank you. I'm so excited. I've had my eye on this for a long time, and I'm also excited to reread it. It's been forever. The next book is one that I have toyed with, but I've been afraid to read it because I know it's gonna scare me, but I also really wanna read it because it's written by the creator of The Killing, which is a TV show that I absolutely love, but also completely scared me. And this is The Chestnut Man, and this is by Soren Sveistrup. I know I'm saying that wrong. So this is a serial killer. This is a book of the month edition of this book, full hardcover. And again, same thing, you guys. This is in like near perfect condition. There's a couple little like scratch marks on the back here, which fine by me, but the book itself is perfect. The cover is in great condition. Like, I mean, it doesn't look like fresh off the shelf, but it's as good as. Like, the bottom of the cover is a little bit dinged. But you guys, I mean, every once in a while you see that in the bookstore when you get a book in the mail. So this is, it says, if you find one, he's already found you. This is about a psychopath terrorizing Copenhagen. And his calling card is a chestnut man, a handmade doll made of matchsticks and 2 chestnuts, which he leaves at each bloody crime scene. So this is a detective book. It's like a crazy madman. I think this is really dark and messed up. So I would like to give it a go this month. I'm a little bit afraid of it, but I'm also like super intrigued by it. But I'm so glad I went for it and got this because, again, great condition. And then the last book I got, which is the one that I saw on Hey Atlas Creative, and I had already seen this book on Abby from Crime by the Books. She has like so many lists of books that she recommends, and this definitely was in like the dark and disturbing category, but she raves about it. And I looked online and it has a lot of mixed reviews. I don't know where I'm gonna land, but my curiosity level has been so high. And when I saw it here, I was like, I'm gonna do it. So this is called The Crow Girl by Eric Axel Sund. And this is actually a writing duo. This is so creepy looking, isn't it? So this is a writing duo of these 2 guys, these 2 Swedish authors. This one also has a receipt in it from when the person bought it. And the receipt is from the book bin in Oregon. And the person, whoever bought this, bought it on April 28th, 2019. I'm totally keeping that in here because I just find like these little snippets of people's real life to be really interesting. Probably makes me sound like a creep. So this one says, it begins in a Stockholm city park where the abused body of a young boy is discovered. So we have a detective superintendent who's heading the investigation. And it says, but when the discovery of the mutilated corpses of 2 more children are discovered, it becomes clear that a serial killer is at large. So the detective turns to therapist Sophia Zetterlund for her expertise. And it says, the lives of the 2 women become quickly intertwined professionally and personally. As they draw closer to each other and to the truth about the killings, what surfaces is the undeniable fact that these murders are only the most obvious evidence of an insidious evil woven deep into Swedish society. So I've not heard anybody talk about this other than Abby, and I'm intrigued. I don't know when I'm gonna read it. It's huge. So this came out in 2015. It is 767 pages, you guys. So we'll see, but again, I'm really happy I found it. So the next place I shopped was Pango Books, and I was specifically looking for this book because I didn't buy it when it came out. I was kicking myself for it, and I wanted it, but I wanted it new. I wanted hardcover. I wanted to match all my other books. And it's Riley Sager's The Last Time I Lied. So I feel like this is probably going to be surprising for people because all I do is talk about how much I love him. But when this book came out, I originally read the ebook of it. And I don't know why I didn't buy the hardcover at the time, because I had already read Final Girls. That's how I discovered him. I loved it. I liked this book, but not as much as Final Girls. And then I just like slept on buying it, and I didn't want the paperback. So I eventually bought like a big paperback from Book Depository so that I had it because I couldn't find the hardcover anymore. I know, I'm crazy. But I've got this. So this is in new condition. It's 100% as advertised. It's perfect. Again, it doesn't look like anybody ever read this book. I don't know if she did or not, but this was $10. So this was my biggest splurge, but it was him. It's perfect. It's brand new, and I wanted to have it to add to my Riley shelf, so that's why I got it. I also decided, and I've said this before, that I'm gonna reread all of his books in order. So I did reread Final Girls 2 months ago now, maybe. So this one is next up, and not that I couldn't have read the edition I had, but I wanted to have this one. So I'm gonna stop making excuses for it. Not mad about it, not sorry about it. My collection is complete. And then the last place I shopped is Neverworld Books. And what I was also seeing as I was looking, because I looked at a whole bunch of different sites and I did some Googling on reviews, but I was also seeing that like, you could buy something from Thrift Books and it would ship from Neverworld Books, or you could go on Neverworld Books and it would ship from someplace else. So I was trying to find the origin for the books that I wanted, and it seemed like the pricing all sort of shook out the same. So in some places, maybe you paid $7 for a book, and in another place maybe you paid $5 and $2 in shipping, and then some books ship for free. It all sort of depended, but in the end it all kind of washed out in the end. So I have 5 books here, and then I'm waiting for one more because again, I need to obsessively own the physical copies of books of authors that I love. So I ordered Jennifer Hillier's The Butcher, which is supposed to be coming from the UK. So that is coming through Neverworld Books. Apparently they have a shipping area there. And I think that one is easily gonna take a couple of weeks. So I'm not quite sure what condition that one's going to be in. We'll see when it gets here. Hey guys, it's Future Audrey here, because since I filmed that video, my copy of The Butcher from Jennifer Hillier showed up, and it's great. So it is a former library book, so it has the plastic covering on it, and then it has like some markings on the inside. So you know it was from the library, which is totally fine. But other than that, like the first page is ripped out. I don't know why, like it's not a page of the book, but the entire book itself is in great condition. And again, I'm totally thrilled. I'm, for one, super excited to have a hardcover copy of this. So it did have a sticker on the side from the bookstore, which I pulled off. So I actually, it's not gonna focus, tore the plastic a little bit, so I'm gonna try and just like snip it down and maybe put like a little piece of like clear tape over it so it doesn't catch. But other than that, and again, that was my fault, so. But this book is her 3rd book that she wrote, and it's about a guy named Edward Shank. So it says he was a hero and everyone knew that. He was a now retired police chief, and many, many years ago, he killed this guy called the Beacon Hill Butcher, who was basically a serial killer in Seattle. And now we have his grandson is like moving into his house, and he winds up finding a box buried in the backyard. And Matt and his girlfriend dig into it, and it sounds like there's a whole bunch of like secrets and stuff buried in the box. Sounds good to me. And Sam's mom was murdered, but it was 2 years after the Beacon Hill Butcher was killed. But Sam believes that the Beacon Hill Butcher killed his mom, so maybe the wrong guy was killed. A lot of secrets. I'm super excited for this, and again, thrilled the condition it's in, and I have a hardcover of it. So now the only one I'm missing is Freak, and you better bet I'm on the hunt for it. So the first book is actually a book that I read, owned, unhauled, and then regretted. So now I am repurchasing it because I know. This is why I have like unhaul fears, because I definitely have unhauler's remorse. And there's always a book that I'm kicking myself that I got rid of at the time. So I have repurchased Ton of French's in the Woods. This is a different edition than the one that I have. Feels like much larger than the one I have. And I don't know if this is Canadian or if this is like the UK edition of it, but I read this years ago and I really enjoyed it. And I know this is one of those books that people either totally love her writing and get it, or they don't, or they like other books in the series, but I need to continue in the series, which is part of my plan. And I have, I think, books 2 through 5 in the series. And there was so much about this book that I really loved. And I would like to go back and reread it again because it's been years. But this is actually the 2018 reprint, and it's a UK edition. I'm a fan of this book. I'm a fan of her writing, and I'm all about trying to like, this sounds so silly. I've just done like a whole bookshelf tour with you guys, and I'm like, I'm all about putting books on my shelf that I love. But meanwhile, there's a whole bunch of books I don't know anything about, and I wouldn't get rid of them, but I'm happy to have this. Next up is Neverworld Wake by Marisha Pessl. So she wrote Night Film, which I loved. And I slept on that book for a long time because it was huge and I was intimidated by it. And I read it last year and I totally loved it. And I feel like ever since I mentioned that book and just in other random videos, you guys have recommended this one to me, and I'm, finally gonna do it. So this is about a group of friends from the Darrow Harker School. And it says, Beatrice and her 5 best friends were the cool kids, the beautiful ones. Then the shocking death of Jim, their creative genius and Beatrice's boyfriend, changed everything. So now it's a year after graduation and she's back in town, Wincroft, the seaside estate where they spent so many nights sharing secrets, crushes, plans to change the world, hoping she'll get to the bottom of the dark questions gnawing at her about Jim's death. So I believe there's not like a supernatural aspect of this, but I think we're like not fully grounded in the real world. But it says, now Beatrice has one last shot at answers and at life, and so begins the Neverworld Wake. So I've heard so many great things about this book. I've heard some really great reviews about it. I don't wholly know the story of it, which I'm totally fine with, but I will let you know when I do know. And for the longest time, because obviously I only ever saw this book online, what looks like a mountain, it's actually a woman's face. Such a creepy cover, like in such a good way, but it totally looks like it's mountains. Nope, it's a face. And then from a condition standpoint, this one's not the best. There's like a small tear. There's a small tear here, and then this is like a little bit dirty. It's a, it's a white back book, but the book itself is perfectly fine. There's no writing in it. There's no marking in it. There's no dog earring. So the interior of the book is totally fine too. Next up is a book that the movie scared me to the point, this was sort of in the Pet Sematary days, back in the 90s, and I could not sit through scary movies, or after I watched things like Pet Sematary, I had nightmares. So it took me a long time to actually watch this movie, and I've recently been curious about the book because I've heard great things about it, and it's Silence of the Lambs by Tom Harris. So this was a former library book. So this is from Mooresville Public Library, according to the thing on the back, wherever Mooresville is. So it kind of has like tape around it, which helps it not get damaged. I saw like library binding as a description, and I was trying to find different descriptions of what that was, and I was having a hard time doing it. But anyway, this used to be a library book. So this is the 25th anniversary collection. It has the deckled edges, which I am one of those people who love it. So I have seen this movie now. I do know the story. I suspect, even though this was a really, really, really good movie and so creepy, I suspect that the book is probably going to be even creepier yet. So a lot of these books are great for spooky season. I am really putting myself at a disadvantage with how many spooky books I have and want to read. But anyway, excited for this. Next up is another repurchase, although in all fairness, I had a pocket mass market paperback of this book from a long time ago, and I found a hardcover of it, which I'm so excited about, and it's Margaret Atwood's Cat's Eye. So she wrote this. This was her first book that she wrote after The Handmaid's Tale. So I believe she did some poetry in between, and maybe even some nonfiction, but this was the first novel she wrote since Handmaid's Tale. And I read this way back in the day. This is another one that has like a name and date in it, which I love. And I remember very much enjoying this. Not gonna lie, I don't remember anything I don't even know what this is about. So this one came out in 1988. And I know, I shouldn't say I don't know anything about it. I know like a little bit about it. I want to say this takes place in 2 different timelines, and it's very much about female friendships and the dynamic between girls, especially in the teenage years. So it says, the realm of childhood and growing up with its secrecies, cruelties, betrayals, and terrors has never been so luminously evoked. Through the quirky, idiosyncratic voice of Elaine Risley, Atwood has given fascinating dimensions to the ambiguous roots of women's relationships, both with one another and with the world. And I remember loving the female relationships in this. In one of my, I want to even say it's in here, I have a bunch of quotes that I wrote down from back then. And I remember when I read The Robber Bride, which came out probably mid-late 90s, and I just love her writing, for one. You guys know I'm obsessed with Handmaid's Tale, and her characters, and again, it's those relationships. And I have such a fascination I have such a fascination with the relationship between women, and especially sort of that mean girl, screwed up dynamic that can happen between girls when they're younger. And then in, you know, even as adults, the dynamic between women, for better, for worse, whether it's like frenemies, really good friends, people you've lost touch with that you're back with, and sort of how the relationships you have when you're younger impact your relationships when you're older. And I also talk about this too, like I love those books that will be the college reunion or the friends from college getting back together again 10 years later, 15 years later, and seeing how the characters have changed, but how people still think you are the person you were back then. So I just love the dynamics of relationship, and I just remember loving this book. So I'm so excited to have it. Again, it's in great condition. There's a little bit of a ding here on the bottom of the dust jacket, and it's like a little bit rippled on the top, but it's not ripped or anything. It just looks, you know, like it looks like it's, you know, from 1988. But the inside of the book is in perfect condition. It's a little bit discolored, as are some books on my shelf, because that's just age happening to you. But no dog earring, no writing, no nothing. Perfect, great condition. So happy to have this one. And then the last book I got, which needs a little bit of a cleanup now that I'm looking at it in this light here, which I never thought I would find the physical book of this, never mind find it in hardcover, but this is Alifair Burke's Judgment Calls. This is her first book, and this is the Samantha Kincaid series. So she wrote 3 books in this series before she went into the Ellie Hatcher series, which is how I discovered her. And I could never find these books online. I could never find them in a store. And I just sort of gave up on the fact that I was ever gonna read any of these. So you can probably find the ebook of it. I realize that. But I saw this and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they have it. So this one is about Deputy District Attorney Samantha Kincaid. And this has a mix of police investigation and also the courtroom scene. And it was a 13-year-old girl who's been brutally attacked and left for dead on the city's outskirts. So this takes place in Portland. And it just sounds really good. And I remember hearing great things about this out of the start. So it says, a woman consumed by a sense of justice who was also tough enough to take on a man's world. Seamlessly juxtaposing courtroom scenes with those of criminal investigation, Judgment Calls reveals not only an insider's knowledge of the criminal justice system, but a fresh new voice in the world of crime writing. So again, fresh new voice. This is her first book. And this came out in 2003. So I'm also super excited about this one. And this is also a first edition. So there's like some marks on the front, which nothing a little cleaning can't fix, but other than that, it's perfect. There's nothing wrong with the inside. I mean, it's used, but you know what I mean. Like there's no writing in it. There's no missing pages. There's no dog earring, anything like that. You can see a little bit of sort of life living on it, but nothing bad. And I also love like how green and gorgeous this cover is. It reminds me of like how beautiful, it's not near me, My Sweet Girl is. And maybe it's because I'm also wearing green nail polish, but I love this cover. So that is it for the thrifted used book haul situation. And if you take out the $10 Riley Sager book, all in, I want to say I paid $40, maybe $45. I know I'm paying a little bit of a premium for the Jennifer Hillier book, which hasn't come through yet, so I haven't paid for that one yet technically. But I got some really great deals, and it's definitely the kind of websites where you can totally fall down a rabbit hole, but also if you know what you're looking for and you dig, you can find some real gems. And I'm so excited. This is definitely going to be slippery slope for me, so I'm going to try not to go back on these websites anytime soon, but I don't know how much I'll be able to resist temptation. But I will link everything down below. I will link Hey Atlas Creative also. And let me know, you guys, if you do online use book shopping, if you've found any great places to shop from, your experience, all of that. Also, let me know if you've read any of the books here that I haven't read, like the super scary ones. And we can talk about all that good stuff. But thank you guys for hanging out today, and I hope you guys are doing really well, and I'll see you soon in another video. Bye, everybody.